since this is probably going to be my first voiceover video for War Commander, it's just a tips and tricks video to possibly get you farther throughout the event, defensive-wise at least. I know many people nowadays are complaining that you need coin to keep playing the game, which I agree. Many people do. Many people will continue to complain about that even when coin may or may not even be a factor anymore, which it always will be. We know that, but it is what it is. Kids as a company, they need to make money. It's their profit. So my first advice is, well, it's an obvious one. Bastions will help. Many people, I've never upgraded my weapons lab, never saw it really as a benefit because I normally am a PvP type player. I go for my attacking units first more than my defensive units. That's why, a lot of the stuff is not max in my base. I mean, I have some max bunkers, max drone silo, max CC, but that's just typical normal stuff you would probably see in a high level base. But bastions are good for those straggler units that will probably spawn over here on this side and take out these defenses if it's already weak in the later waves. And spawning it closer probably would move it closer over here to where if it's a micro health unit, let's say it's like a purifier, you can't kill it with the last of your platforms that what other units killed it, the Bastion will kill it, it's all good. But last event I did a video for Brother's Wrath, all defensive waves, and I did it with just Serious Tail. Well, most of it was Serious Tail. People don't realize that since they don't cost you repair, they cost you 3,000 medals. So you can either put them on fight mode and they just go off on their own and they can take on at least half the waves, or if you're smart about your units and you know how to use your units, then you're kind of set, because normally if you put on Fight for Your Life and there's a couple dozen preservers, you wouldn't really get far because they spread out. The preservers would just pick them off. But if you know how to use your units, you can, like what I did during the invasion, I would take my howlers, I would go around from the sides and attack like that. Give it a little extra way in know-how to kill them without going head-on. People nowadays don't realize that going head-on is suicide. Even with old units SF, you could face about 15 different operators, and you could send head-on 2 or 3 expert howlers. That expert howlers would more than likely die if the operators were teched up enough. But going around from the sides, if there's a whole entire wall of just SF or war horses, ultra tanks, the whole shebang of Kitsai and their units of spam. We're only allowed to have 3,000 in our Dodo bar max, and Kitsai will send about 35 preservers, and you can own, more than 35 preservers, I'm sorry, that can hold 40, more than like 50 or so if you were in an invasion, you saw the later rounds, they would send about 35 or so acolytes and 12 preservers on wave 10, and then they would bring in an extra wave of all of that, and then bring the Omega Juggernaut, aka the boss base we saw in the last Shadow Ops. It was hell. Many people couldn't do it on the first try. I couldn't do it on the first try even when I knew it was coming, because I was so focused on trying to kill the purifiers off. But, and then before I saw the Juggernaut come in, it already fired 2 shots because I saw my CC near half health. Below half health, so. But another way, if people are complaining about lag, is just hide your trophies. stash building, stash building, and now you have less lag in your base because now there's uh, no moving turrets or trophies. I'm sorry. But you could also do a settings and just get rid of all of that. Explosions off. That gets rid of a lot of your lag. I run a high spec computer, so I can keep some of these on, but I don't like to overwork it because it's kit size servers. Even with a high spec computer, it's what are you gonna do? Lag will always be there. A lot of people recommend putting your power plants on overdrive, and I do recommend that as well. I mean, just look at the extra power you're getting. 79,000. You can kill 2 power plants then, and you'd still be set on power. But of course, you gotta remember that they will die if you keep them on overdrive because they do have a set amount of time before they just blow up. Which power plants, they're 25-second repair even if they die. Even in an invasion, I would click repair on the ones that were dead. It's free repair, so it's up to you guys. But since they do work off of a Ruby, and Ruby will hit every building closest to it first. So, like what people used to do in zombie events, what people used to do in the other events, you can ultimately just surround your building, your base, your walls, with buildings, and they will go after those first, giving your liberators more ample time to pick off the standing survivors that are there, giving if you want to bring out a Vindicator and snipe it off, you can do that. It gives it more ample time because then they focus on the last stand defenders. If they send in purifiers or alkalites, they take time to kill those last stand defenders since they're not splash damage. It kills them one at a time. I mean, you kill a metal factory that's 15 or so units. It's a pretty easy game at that point. Mines, only really have to worry about infernos. They haven't really sent an inferno for how long? A couple months, I would say. So mines really don't do much. They're just I keep them there in case for PvP reasons because people will go after mines with attack dogs. They don't really send attack dogs anymore. No point in keeping mines on the spawn points anyways, but since Kitsai doesn't really go after normal spawn points, they'll just spawn them everywhere. I mean, if you're having trouble with a wave, and you know where they come from, because they generally will come from the same spot each and every time, you can just place mines all across that. And, if it's SF, Liberators, Alkalites, they will get slaughtered by mines. Kisai bases, when they used to put mines all across one walkway, and we had to send like our heavy gunners that are immune to mines or something close to that, then we would sacrifice a couple liberators if we didn't have those already built because we know we tend to scrap our old units. Like I scrapped all of my operators, all of the old SF I've scrapped. I've kept my heroes, I've kept my lead preservers, I've kept my commandos. Those still have uses, but when it comes to operators, they're the weakest of the SF. I don't see really a need for them right now. But Kixai tends to have a joyride when it comes to, how should I put it? Not, well, yes, spamming, but not in the sense that we would be able to keep up with. Talons won't do anything. People who put in Talons because, they're gonna spam air like they did in the onslaught, spamming 15 Omega Sandstorms. I mean, they could possibly still do that, but if you couldn't get past it in the onslaught, like I barely got past that, and since howlers can take that air down pretty easily, but since there were so many of them, they tend to have a spam problem. So night owls are probably your best bet. That's just from my standpoint, because they spam ground more than they spam air. Night owls will destroy just about every ground unit, except for alkalites and purifiers. Alkalites and purifiers tend to have a, resistance to them since they're so high in health. I mean, just look at that. They're pretty resistant. They have a railgun, so they can almost one-shot night owls, and it's kind of just out there. So I don't see it being as hard as the onslaught or invasion at all. I think if you got past both, like me, I did my invasion in 19 minutes. It if you could get past both of those pretty easy, then I see yourself, getting past this event pretty easily too. Not to downplay anything that Kit says going to do, because Lord behold, they're going to change something and make it super damn hard for everyone else, because that's just how they do it. If it's too easy that people can just do it without coining, they're going to change it. I mean, that's just how they are. When people found out they can missile spam the old metal 90 bases, they added a missile blocker. Once they realized that people were, using Nimbuses to take out drone silos and then just go and add it through that, then they changed the setup, and then they made it a little bit harder. They even had SF in there that slaughtered liberators. I mean, Kitsai will change it if it's too easy for everyone. Why would they want to keep it easy if they can't make coin off of it? I mean, come on, but it's Kitsai. We get it. Let's just hope that, this event will go smoothly for everyone. And if you want extra tips, we can probably go through base defenders too. Mine are mainly dead because I just got hit about 12 hours ago, and I only started healing them about 6 hours ago. So I was hit around 4 in the morning offline. So okay, howlers I already went over on how to minimize most damage to them and to your base by going from the sides, picking them off. Howlers, if you have the tech that adds range and adds damage while moving, perfect, because they're a constant moving unit. Liberators, extra range, reduces damage taken. That's good when facing spamming units, preservers, lead preservers, SF, liberators, all of that. And damage to vehicles, of course, because you're going to be defending against a lot of vehicles. Tempests, mine are still not level 20. The VHP for these things are outrageous. I currently need to build more, advanced ones. I've been putting that off for so long because, I never saw because they're always in my base. At one point, I tried to send them against Elite Titan bases, but they got slaughtered. So I just decided to let them rank up through PvP. And, online, you can do pretty well. You get some decent VXP, the whole lot. But offline, they don't do much. They're easily picked off by cyclones. They're easily picked off by, just the stealthy units that can snipe. Hades did all that good stuff. Workshop, get the best stuff for what you are working with. If it's attacking, my liberators, if they're attacking, they can easily just go ahead, and I've shown in my previous videos the schematic I use. but this is my base defender and yeah, my base defender one. I already showed that, and my attacking, extra damage to buildings. That's really the only difference between the two is extra damage to buildings, which they already have a large highest amount of damage to buildings, so not much to go off there. You got just normal schematic stuff. I mean, whatever works for you works for you. I'm not going to try to say, you should use this because this works better. I mean, I could easily do that, but if it works for you, it works for you, and that's what matters. If you're comfortable with your schematic, keep your schematic. If you're comfortable with your base layout, keep your base layout. If your base layout was able to stand up to all the recent defensive events, onslaught and invasion, stay with it. Don't make a random base layout, not be comfortable with it, and then you lose your ass. That is one thing that happens to a lot of people, and that is one thing that should not have happened, but people do it anyways because if it looks better, people assume it's better. If the base layout, if they assume it's better, they'll rely on it more so, and they're not comfortable with it because they don't know it firsthand, like they didn't make it. I'm not one to say this, I'm not the best at base layouts. I get ideas from other people, KT, KT Javi, Gabby, what's some of the other ones? Those other people who make base layout videos. I take ideas from them. Hell, even Shadow Killer, I'll take an idea from him or two. His old anti-jug layout, I took it into consideration. I didn't like it personally, so I wasn't going to try to mimic it for the most part, but people who know what they're talking about, you can take ideas from them. There's high level, level 45 plus, level 44 plus, people who know how to use their units, and they've proven how to use their units, and not just spam an Inferno, Growler, Elite Legion, Jug, and hope for the fucking best. Well, it doesn't work that way. It used to work that way, You could spam 8 Vanquishers in a base, hope for the best if they didn't have Vanquishers already in their base, or hope that they didn't have Ions, Wraiths, then, you could take down the base pretty easily. Back in the day, you could have spammed SF. They were pretty useful back then. They just started off. Lead Preservers, they would tank damage. Added a couple of lead operators in there. You could just spam a base, 2 or 3 platoons of just SF, low repair, low resources. Hey, but now you need, skill. Now you need to know how to use your units because these new base layouts that came with the anti-jug, spread out but condensed enough, just enough, to where they can keep constant fire upon the enemy units. You try to hit this bunker, you take out this area right here, but you still have this area right here, you still have this bunker right here, you still possibly have this bunker hitting you. You still, more than likely, if this wasn't upgraded, you would still, if you move forward, this would be hitting you. It's always constant fire, but it's spread out enough to where the Jug can 3-star you in 1 or 2 shots. But, I'm probably just rambling on now. People don't want to hear my voice. I get it. Make sure to keep the defensive lab in Dodo Bar. Dodo Bar is, easy to kill, but it's 48% damage bonus to base defenders, and then you have defensive lab, which is 70% less damage to them in combat. So it works, and always make sure to do your shadow ops, because now you have 8%, damage buff during an event. That's pretty substantial if you're using, lower units, and that's all you have left. 8% extra damage to like a whole tune of SF is pretty substantial. And not to add insult to injury, but 80% damage, 8% extra damage to those Omega units is just adding insult to injury beyond belief. Because if you thought they could mow over bases before, they would mow them over more now. But always, and if you have a good clan, war efforts, you could always unit damage, turret damage, economy. So always make sure that you have also some friends, even if you're over 47. Everyone needs help from time to time. Don't be afraid to ask for help, but don't beg for help. Begging in War Commander has never been a huge thing. In my sector, you beg constantly, you get flattened. You get kicked out of your clan, you get all of that. At least that's how it was when I play the game constantly. I have college now, so I'm off and on. That's why I haven't made a video in like 2 weeks. But, you know, if you need help and you absolutely cannot do the base, wave 100, trying to get the last, challenge base, master track, whatever, I'm sorry. If you need that, well, go ahead and ask. If no one will help, repair, try again. If you can't do it, like your units won't work, try and ask one more time. Ask some close friends if they know they will help and that they have time. Because most people at the start of the event will beg almost instantly. You just gotta, do what you can. If no one will help you, do a restart, keep going, get as much XP as you can, and just go from there. Not much else you can do. Well, I'll wish everyone a good luck in this event, and thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.